Chapter 7. Into the Wastes. In Delgian, dormitory of Master Judith Deoda, December 11th, 1998. Allure stares at Danny in disbelief. She knows what she heard, but it still sounds too outrageous to be true. You want to trick the Knights of Solomon into thinking you're Vadis and sneak out of the city into the wastes to hunt for a deadly mage-eating monster. Yeah, that sounds about right, Danny says. How did you even come up with an idea this crazy? Allure asks. Apprentice Scioto gave me the suggestion. Allure's eyes widen. The same Maxwell Scioto that you knocked out of contention for Provost? The same guy that trained with Vadis every day until you came along? I'm not sure that he's your biggest fan. Why would he give you any useful advice? Well, maybe he's not that petty, Danny says with a shrug. Maybe we misjudged him. He seems like a nice enough guy. I think it's a good idea. Can you pull off a glamour that big, or not? Allure sighs loudly. I should be able to, but we could get in serious trouble for this. Helping out a friend in need is worth getting scolded. If I don't get my magic back, Jake is going to get himself killed. It'll be a lot worse than a scolding. Besides, Jake is your friend. I've never even met the guy before. Why do I need to stick my neck out for him? Your friend is the reason why Master King is dead. Jake didn't kill Master King or Provost Lutea, Danny says angrily. I was there. Despite what you've heard, Jake isn't a killer. I understand, Allure says, but he still has a monster inside of him. Jake may not be a killer, but Yamura most certainly is. I'm not sure that I'm comfortable helping him. Damn it, Danny whispers in frustration. What about helping me? This is really important to me. That's dirty, Allure says. Danny makes a sad puppy dog face. Please. I fucking hate you, Allure sighs, giving in. But if you get caught, I don't know anything about this plan of yours. Fair enough, Danny smiles. So, how do we do this? Allure removes some items from her makeup bag. You're lucky I've specialized in this kind of magic. Anyone else wouldn't be good enough to be foolproof. Even if they use detect magic, the knights shouldn't be able to see through my makeup. She begins to apply foundation to Danny's cheeks. The magical tool causes Danny's features to sharpen and become more masculine. Rather than her typical round facial shape, Danny's face is made to become more angular with a well-defined chin and cheekbones. Next, Allure uses eyeshadow to cover the girl's feminine eyes and eyeliner to make her lashes appear to shrink in length. The illusion magic is very thorough. Little by little, Allure transforms Danny's face into that of Lieutenant Vadis Nando. She applies lipstick to remove the fullness and shape of Danny's lips to make them look more like a man's. Amazing, Danny says, looking at herself in Allure's compact mirror. You're incredible. We have to do something about your voice. She looks down at Danny's chest. And those. Danny looks down at her own chest and laughs. Yeah, I guess Vadis with boobs would raise some red flags. Take off your shirt, Allure says, pulling out a roll of enchanted gauze. I designed this tape to make my torso become that of a male by binding my breasts. A few of the female knights have used this since I created it for stealth operations. Once your chest is bound, the magic will disguise your entire torso. What about my hips? Danny asks, removing her shirt as told. Well, I'm not very hippie myself, so I haven't had to worry about it before. I think that if you wear enough armor, no one will notice. Allure hands Danny a piece of hard candy. Enchanted glyphs are written upon the candy to give it a magical effect. Roscapia Goddess, Allure chants. Vatis Nando. She pictures Vatis in her mind and his voice in her memories. Danny pops the candy into her mouth. Did it work? She asks, her voice now that of Lieutenant Nando. Allure nods. You've only got his voice until that candy runs out, so don't accidentally swallow it or anything. Danny spits the candy back into her hand. Thank you. I really do appreciate all that you've done for me. Yeah, go on. You're on a timer here. Danny rushes off to return to the guard port, leading from the city out into the yet-zero wastes. If she can fool the guards into letting her pass, Danny will only have to worry about the guards stationed along each checkpoint border. Beyond the 5th checkpoint, the creatures of the wastes roam free and unmolested by the mages. It will be dangerous, but Danny's committed herself to this task. She will succeed and bring a Draugr back to Master Hagano, and then she will be able to help Jake on Jockey Island. Danny arrives at the gate exiting the city, trying her best to conceal her nervousness. The heavy armor of a knight is difficult to get used to, and she finds it awkward to move naturally. Present your mark, the knight at the gate says. Danny holds her arm out so that the man can inspect her magical branding. The insignia of Captain Akanzi Arisai appears on the teen's forearm. The knight's eyes glow with a green luminescence as he scans the marking with Detect Magic. Lieutenant Nando, the knight says, what brings you outside the city? I have heard a few rumors from men stationed at the outposts, returning from their watches. I would like to check up on the validity of some of those reports. Such as, the knight asks. If you don't mind my inquiry, it only helps our job to know what might be happening out there. Sometimes we are left out of the latest briefings. Danny nods. Your concerns are more than justified. I have heard that one of the revenants has developed a taste for magical energy and become a Draugr. The knight's face turns white. If that's true, we must destroy that creature as soon as possible. Draugr are far more dangerous than regular revenants. I will make sure that if such a creature is out there, it will be destroyed before it can harm anyone. Stepping through the gate, Danny immediately feels a change in the air. Unseen, a magical barrier is wrapped around the entire city. Breaching the barrier requires special permission, and the gate guards quickly act to repair the human-sized opening. It is bitterly cold with zero moisture. The ground is rocky and hard, frozen nearly 2 feet down. There's no sun in this world, and it exists in a perpetual darkness. The knights stationed to patrol the checkpoints have erected lanterns on poles to keep the areas visible. The lanterns are powered by magical stones that will stay illuminated for thousands of years. Without any visibility, the revenants would overtake the mages quickly, before they even knew what was happening. A lookout station is erected near the border between the 1st and 2nd checkpoints. Raised up about 20 meters into the air, the lookout is made for a night, to be able to see out across the border in the event that a creature of the waste manages to get past the knights stationed within the 2nd checkpoint. Each checkpoint is set up in this way, having a lookout station along the border roughly 1 kilometer apart from each other, to form a perimeter around the city. The checkpoints are spaced out approximately 2 kilometers apart from each other until the 4th checkpoint. The distance between the 4th and 5th checkpoints are greater because the knights have lost control beyond the 5th checkpoint. The lanterns have all been destroyed and the world beyond has returned to the darkness. The rocky terrain is devoid of any vegetation or wildlife. The only beings within the wastes are the undead. Beyond checkpoint 5 are some stone trees, long petrified and lacking any life essence. These stones were removed within the inner checkpoints to improve visibility and prevent places for revenants to hide. Special detection spells are cast around the perimeter of each checkpoint, alerting the knights stationed there each time a revenant crosses a boundary line. The knight at the entry point checks Danny's insignia and performs a perception spell to determine whether she is under any form of control magic. Lieutenant Nando, the knight says, his eyes glowing with perception enhancement magic. Danny nods. That would be me. Have you been exposed to any sorcery or potential control magics that we may not have detected? Not that I'm aware of. Do I need to verify my identity in some other way? Not currently, the knight says. You will be evaluated again when you are ready to leave this area. Okay, is there anything else I need to be aware of? I don't come out this way too often. Too much to go over with you in a timely manner. I'm surprised you didn't brief yourself better on the Yetzira before embarking on this mission. What exactly are you out here for? I wish to see beyond Checkpoint 5. There are rumors of a mage hunter coming dangerously close to our outposts. The knight nods. If this is true, it seems to be testing our defenses and seeing how close it can get before we issue a response. It has not yet made any kind of attack. Danny swallows hard with her nervousness, almost accidentally swallowing her enchanted candy in the process. She was just bluffing to justify her coming to the wastes. But there really has been a Draugr sighted. If it hasn't attacked, it has higher intelligence. A normal revenant would attack first, without having any kind of strategy. It must be very old and very powerful. Shall we gather a unit to eliminate the threat? Danny holds up a hand. Not yet. I would like to investigate this myself first. If one can handle a situation, why burden others? Understood. You are very wise beyond your years, sir. Danny smiles. Vatus commands a lot of respect from his men. I've got to do my best not to tarnish his reputation in any way. Can you direct me to the outpost frequented by this creature? The knight nods. He points northeast. Outposts 28 and 29 have been reporting the creature the most. But it has also been sighted as far north as Outpost 25 and as far south as Outpost 30. That's quite a range, Danny whispers. It's really only about 6 kilometers. A small tiger can have a range up to 100 kilometers, with about 1.5 kilometers between each outpost. It is actually a very small hunting range for a predator. All of the outposts are fully staffed? The knight nods. One knight is stationed in each outpost, with 2 more operating the checkpoint gate. He eyes Danny suspiciously. You should at least know that much, sir. Danny tries not to panic. There is so much to keep up with, the details have probably just slipped my mind. I apologize. We rotate shifts. My watch began yesterday, so I'll be out here for another 2 days. The relief for Outposts 28 and 29 will arrive in 16 hours. Outposts 25 and 26 will not receive their next shift until the day after tomorrow. We try to stagger the arrivals so that there's no emergency that will see none of them receive any relief. That makes sense. I should be able to finish my hunt by the time the next relief comes. Again thanking the knight, Danny is permitted to continue on towards the Checkpoint 2 gate. The distance is a 2-kilometer walk without any kind of escort. The checkpoints are separated by a stone wall around the entire perimeter, and elevated outposts spaced out roughly every 1.5 kilometers. The walls are high enough to prevent any creatures ever observed from outright leaping over and giving the knights enough time to handle any that attempt to climb over. Magical mines are buried below the ground under the walls to prevent any creatures from digging underneath. The combination of hard, rocky ground and the heavy armor she is wearing causes Danny to tire as she makes her way across the distance between checkpoints 1 and 2. PIA Headquarters, Washington, D.C. Agent Nora sat at his desk, his fingers poised above the keypad of his phone. The single file folder detailing the strange case lay open in front of him, its contents a puzzle waiting to be unraveled. He had a growing sense that there was more to this situation than met the eye, and he intended to get to the bottom of it. With a determined exhale, he punched in the number he had obtained earlier, and brought the phone to his ear. The line crackled briefly before a voice came through, strong and slightly tense. "Officer Roberts speaking," the voice on the other end announced. "Good afternoon, Officer Roberts. This is Agent Nora from the Paranormal Investigation Agency. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time." Agent Nora's tone was measured and professional, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that this conversation was a pivotal moment in the case. "Not at all, Agent," Roberts replied, his voice carrying a mix of curiosity and cautiousness. "How can I assist you?" Agent Nora leaned forward, his attention fully focused on the conversation. "I understand that there was an incident involving some unusual creatures at your precinct recently. I'd like to gather some information about what happened. Do you still have those NHEs secured?" he asks. "We will be sending a team to your location to recover them." There's a long pause on the other end of the call before the officer responds. "Creatures? What are you talking about? We don't have any creatures here." Agent Nora's skepticism grew, but he kept his voice steady. "Officer Roberts, I find it hard to believe that two officers from your same precinct would have such conflicting stories. Are you certain that you're being truthful with me?" "I have no idea what you're asking me," the officer replies. Agent Nora can hear a small tint of anxiety in the man's voice. He's lying. "The NHEs your department called us about. Is Officer Martinez around? I spoke with her earlier about this incident, and she told me that you had taken two of the creatures into custody." "No one named Martinez works for our department. You must have contacted the wrong precinct." "Are you sure?" Agent Nora's patience was wearing thin, his instincts telling him that something was being deliberately hidden. "Officer Roberts, I strongly urge you to reconsider your statement. It's in everyone's best interest to fully cooperate with this investigation. Lying or withholding information could have serious consequences." Roberts cleared his throat, the unease in his voice more pronounced now. "Agent, I understand the seriousness of the situation, but I swear to you, no creatures were brought in. I'm not sure what Officer Martinez might have said, but I can only speak for what I know." Agent Nora's brows furrowed as he listened to Officer Roberts' voice on the other end of the line. Something wasn't adding up. Officer Martinez had already confirmed the presence of the creatures when he spoke to her earlier. He leaned back in his chair and took a deep breath, deciding to probe further. "I thought you said there was no Officer Martinez working for your department." Roberts pauses for a split second, trying to recover from his gaffe. "I meant that she is not on this shift." Officer Roberts' voice remained tense as he spoke with Agent Nora, his words chosen with care. "Agent, if you could call back tomorrow, you might have better luck speaking with Officer Martinez. She's not here right now, and she might be able to provide more insight into what happened. I really don't have any information to provide, as I have not heard any reports of creatures being sighted. I'm sure that if such things were being kept here at the station, I would have noticed." Agent Nora's suspicions deepened at the mention of Officer Martinez being on a different shift. It was clear that there was more to this situation than met the eye. However, he maintained his professional demeanor, not allowing any hint of his growing doubts to seep into his voice. "Thank you for the information, Officer Roberts. I appreciate your willingness to cooperate. I'll definitely reach out to Officer Martinez tomorrow." Roberts nodded, even though he knew the agent couldn't see him over the phone. "Of course, Agent. I'll let her know to expect your call." "Great. Have a good day, Officer Roberts," Agent Nora said, his tone polite but guarded. "You too, Agent." Roberts replied before hanging up. As Agent Nora hung up the phone, he couldn't shake the feeling that the officer was deliberately withholding information. The officer's attempts at feigning innocence were evident, their nervousness palpable even over the phone. Whatever had transpired with those creatures, it seemed the mystery was far from solved. Officer Roberts slowly lowered the phone, his fingers lingering on the keypad for a moment before he let out a tense breath. He knew he had taken a risk by initially denying the existence of the creatures, but the pressure from the devil possessing him was relentless. The devil's whispers had promised him power, influence, and protection, but it also demanded absolute obedience and secrecy. As he turned in his chair, Roberts faced his office door, which swung open to reveal Captain Miller, his superior, and the head of the precinct. Captain Miller's appearance was subtly altered under the influence of the devil. His usually stern countenance now held an unsettling calmness, his eyes a shade darker and more intense. His typically neat uniform seemed to ripple with an otherworldly energy, casting faint shadows that danced unnaturally across his features. "Roberts," Captain Miller's voice was low, resonant timbre, tinged with an eerie confidence that sent a shiver down Roberts' spine. "I trust your conversation with the PIA went as planned." Roberts swallowed hard, his throat dry. "Yes, Captain. I managed to convince him that there were no creatures brought in. But he's suspicious. He spoke to Officer Martinez, and she confirmed their presence." Captain Miller's lips curled into a sardonic smile, revealing a hint of malevolence. "Ah, Martinez. She always had a weak will. We can't have her undermining our plans. But don't worry, Roberts. We have our ways of dealing with those who stray from the path." "The government seems interested in obtaining those monsters," Roberts says. "I wonder if they intend to try and make their own entry into the Sakari's competition." "They won't survive long without supernatural assistance. A mere human stands no chance on that island," Captain Miller says. "Are we sending the Therian mongrels to the island ourselves?" "No," Captain Miller replies. "I have something special in mind for our growing collection." Yetzira, the Wastes. Arriving at the gate for Checkpoint 2, Danny is greeted by the two knights standing guard. "Is this checkpoint clear of threats?" "Yes, sir," one of the knights says. Rather than asking for Danny's credentials, he instead offers a handout and a friendly greeting. "I am Arthur Conrad. It is a pleasure to meet you in person, sir. I'm proud to report that we have had no reports of any undead creatures breaching Checkpoint 5 in 3 weeks. "How far did that one get?" Danny asks. "It was intercepted before Checkpoint 4. It was only able to bypass the wall because it was a rare flying-type revenant," Arthur says. Danny's eyes widen in surprise. She did not know that revenants could fly. The other knight notices her surprise and speaks up with clarification. "The dominant spirit within the revenant once possessed wings," the knight, named Miroslav Durga, says. "And the winged ones are uncommon?" Danny asks. "There are more predatory quadrupeds than flying types. When a revenant forms, most of its traits come from the dominant personality. If there is a struggle for dominance, multiple traits appear, such as when you see a revenant chimera." Danny nods. "I have seen ones with crab claws and spider-like bodies." "Crabs and spiders are simple creatures, so no one being is going to be able to dominate the other. Higher organisms that become revenants are usually the dominant personality. Almost any time a mammal or a bird is involved, it takes over the personality and makes most of its physical traits. Human revenants are the most dangerous," Arthur adds. "They have far higher intelligence and problem-solving skills." "How often do you run into those out here?" Danny asks. "Very rarely," Miro says. "The smarter ones tend to let the weaker creatures pick at the defense for days or weeks, before ever attempting anything themselves." Have you ever encountered one capable of speech? Miro laughs. No, revenants cannot advance that much. They may try to imitate intelligence, but they are still just predatory animals more than anything else. Thank you for the information, Danny says. It shall come in handy for my mission. I never asked. What exactly is your mission, sir? Arthur asks. I'm on the hunt for a Draugr. The knights open the gate and Danny passes through. Another kilometer trek lies ahead for the team between checkpoints 2 and 3. This stretch of the wasteland is still rocky and barren, yet Danny can see the remnants of ancient dried-up creek beds. Whatever this world once was, it did at one time have life, and resemble the mortal plane. Piles of stones mark the graves of fallen mages, who died in service to the knights. Beneath the graves there are no bodies. Because of the threat of undead creatures like revenants, there's too much fear that the fallen mages become victims of the creatures or themselves rise as liches. The bodies of all knights who perish in defense of Endelgion are burnt. Nearing checkpoint 3, Danny notices there are many grave markers. She assumes that at one time there was a great battle here. She finds it frightening to think that the revenants could have come so close to reaching the city before being stopped. Welcome to nowhere, Lieutenant, a knight named Tullus Mason shouts down from the outpost. What brings you to our part of Purgatory? I'm on a monster hunt, Danny says. You haven't seen anything, have you? I can only see as far as the edge of checkpoint 4 from here. A few smaller creatures have skittered up to the wall, but nothing on this side of 4. You have not seen the Mage Eater that is said to currently be roaming about? Not on my watch. The guy I relieved warned of it, but I've seen nothing. Danny nods. Thank you. I will have to go looking for it, I suppose. I wouldn't advise going past checkpoint 4 alone, the guard says. As strong as you are, you'll act like a beacon to the hungry creatures. That is what I hope, Danny admits. If what I see comes to me, it will save me a great deal of time and effort. Thinking it dangerous but not wanting to argue with the superior, the guards open up the gate and allow Danny entry into the lands between checkpoints 3 and 4. The stretch will be Danny's final safe passage. Once she passes checkpoint 4, there'll be no knights ahead to provide her aid. Years ago, checkpoint 5 was overridden by the undead, and the knights had to fall back to checkpoint 4 to defend the wall. The battle was bloody and many mages died, but checkpoint 4 was held. The lands between checkpoints 4 and old checkpoint 5 were lost to the creatures of the wastes. To avoid being hunted by the knights, the older and more intelligent creatures spend most of their time beyond even old checkpoint 5, where the lighting of the mage's torches cannot reach. Finally reaching checkpoint 4, Danny returns the enchanted candy to her mouth. She has only sucked on the candy when speaking with the gate guards, as it would not last the several hours spent hiking between the checkpoints. It has gone smoother than she expected, and Danny fears that is not a good sign. When things are going good, they usually take a sudden turn for the worst. As Danny nears the border of the 4th checkpoint, the temperature drops nearly 10 degrees and a cold mist hovers over the ground. Here, the knights are visibly more anxious and pay her much less attention, instead staying on the move to patrol the stone wall. The wall at this checkpoint is damaged in places, with newer stones supplementing the broken spots. Do you see anything? Danny asked the knight up in Outpost 28's lookout. 4 revenants, the knight named Alphonse Soren says. You here to help? I will if needed, Danny says. I actually need to cross past the wall into old checkpoint 5. Are you mental? Alphonse asks. The monsters are in charge past this point. We have no control beyond this wall. I understand that, Danny says. That's why I'm here. I have to find the Draugr that has been sighted recently. Risking your life to hunt a single creature by going into their property? That's smacking a whole beehive. What can you tell me about the revenants that you've already identified in the area? Danny asks. All 4 of them are mid-sized, Alphonse says. Biggest one is about the size of a Clydesdale. They all seem to be mammal-based. The way they move together makes me think they're working together as a pack. Can they really be that intelligent? Danny asks. It isn't too unthinkable. Revenants exhibit animal intelligence. There are numerous predatory animals that cooperate as groups. Just look at wolves or lions. I guess so, Danny says. It's a lot easier to think of them as mindless monsters. That is a dangerous assumption to make. The more of these things you encounter, the more they continue to surprise you. No 2 revenants are identical. Each one of them is formed through the experiences of the countless souls that they have devoured. Memories and instincts interweaving can go a long way to develop a personality. When was the last time this outpost was under attack? Danny asks. I've been with the Knights for 9 years, and I've never seen a real attack. Not out here. We've had plenty of revenants and lesser creatures test out our defenses, but never stage an outright attack, Alphonse says. Another knight, named Meshith Finion, shakes his head. Me either. I don't believe there's been a real attack going on for 80 years. What happened 80 years ago? Alphonse's eyes are suspiciously. It doesn't give me real confidence when our leadership isn't knowledgeable of such things. Danny is forced to quickly adapt. Captain Erisai usually oversees any operations regarding the Yetzira. I primarily handle threats to the city from the mortal world. He was busy and assigned me to handle the security check myself. I apologized for my lack of preparedness. This answer seemed satisfactory to the knights. About 80 years ago is when we lost Checkpoint 5. Our outer perimeter extended almost another 4 kilometers, but the creatures of the wastes have slowly been gaining ground. Pushed back beyond the checkpoint, the knights waged a desperate last stand. Many mages were killed before the survivors were finally forced to retreat. We were able to hold Checkpoint 4 and with reinforcements, drive the revenants back outside of Checkpoint 5. Over the following years, battles were raged back and forth numerous times. Eventually, the elders deemed it was not worth risks or resources to retake Checkpoint 5 and hold it. Checkpoint 4's defenses were reinforced, and any revenants detected in the zone between Checkpoint 4 and Checkpoint 5 are eliminated as quickly as possible. It sounds as though the revenants had some kind of plan, Danny whispers. I thought they were supposed to be mindless predators, incapable of greater thought or strategy. Well, that's what we were taught, Meshach says with a shrug. Every once in a while, someone from this post reports a smart one. They usually try to observe us for a while before moving closer, Alphonse says. We thought one of the 4 we are currently monitoring might be one of these, but they haven't shown any obvious signs of intelligence. Danny considers everything she has heard. What do you think the chances are of there being an evolved revenant out there? One more intelligent than the others and controlling them. Even a Draugr doesn't display human-level thought, Meshach says. People give them too much credit. They're monsters driven by instinct and nothing more. The revenants had an intelligent leader. They'd already have found a way to take the other checkpoints. It's just fear. Revenants are the boogeyman, because they are so close to the city. Everyone fears that it would just take a mistake or a bad day for us to be overrun, and then the revenants would sweep through our forces, Alphonse says. I appreciate your candor, Danny says. I'm truly thankful for the information you've provided. You're still going further out? Alphonse asks nervously. Danny nods. I must see for myself if there indeed has been a change in the behavior of the creatures. and if they have produced a Draugr. Higher intelligence evolving in a creature as dangerous as a Revenant is not a scenario that we ever need to let come pass. Do you need us to come with you? Alphonse asks. Danny shakes her head. No. If something happens to me, I will need you to make sure that nothing gets past the wall. We will take out the 4 Revenants nearby and give you a clear path forward, Alphonse says. It is the least we can do to assist. With ranged magic, the knights are able to snipe the creatures of the wastes and make quick work of the Revenants. The gate is opened and quickly shut behind Danny. Visibility is only about 200 feet, as the light from the lanterns can only extend so far past the wall. Danny reaches into her satchel and removes a spell orb. Contained within the orb is a Lumos spell to create a mobile light source. Upon being smashed, a small ball of light hovers in the air near Danny's head and keeps a few steps ahead of her as she walks. From the darkness, many pairs of red eyes watch the mage with great interest. The weaker undead know that they cannot defeat one of the mages, so they hang back and hope she makes a mistake. Should she become injured or incapacitated, the creatures would move in for the kill. Danny continues to walk through the wastes, trying not to let her fear show. She can hear the creatures moving around in the darkness, reacting to her. A howl, quite like any animal Danny's ever heard, echoes from the darkness. The sound is a terrifying rumble that is felt in the girl's very soul. It is as if the howl itself is designed to paralyze those that hear it with an inescapable fear. From the opposite direction of the howl, the reply is sounded with equal ferocity. Danny fears that the pack of beastly revenants described by the gate guard are on the hunt. The teen draws a sword, enchanted by Master Hagano to be able to smite the undead. Several magical glyphs glow with powerful purification magic along the length of the blade. The revenants keep their distance as Danny cautiously walks forward. As Danny walks, she hears the sound of crunching beneath her feet and looks down to see the landscape littered with the remains of many slain knights. Unable to be burnt during the retreat to the checkpoint wall, the corpses of these mages were left behind to become tainted by the evil that pervades the entire world. Green light like fire sparkles in the hollow sockets of several of the skulls. A bony hand grasps Danny's ankle from behind, causing her to fall. The girl hits the ground hard, dropping her satchel and spilling the orbs out. She looks back, filled with terror, as a reanimated skeleton pulls itself forward, using her leg for leverage. Shouting in fear and disgust, Danny kicks at the creature's skull until it releases its grip. The teen scrambles back to her feet and into the awaiting arms of several more of the Oryx. Surrounded, Danny thrashes to free herself, but only manages to drop her sword. "Let go of me!" Danny screams, finally pulling free and almost falling a second time. The enchanted candy falls out of her pocket and onto the ground. Before the teen can reach out, one of the Oryx crushes the candy beneath its feet. The creature hisses, the stench of death filling the air. The lurking revenants push in closer, sensing the mage may become weakened or injured during the struggle with the reanimated corpses. When she is vulnerable, they will strike and consume her life energy quickly. Danny reaches out, pulling a sword free from one of the Oryx's hip. Pivoting, the teen slashes the nearest corpse in two. The bones of the felled creature tremble, still filled with dark energy. Because the sword has long since lost any enchantments, Danny will be unable to exorcise any of the creatures with it. Seeing that it is not working, but left with no other choice as Danny continues swinging. Anytime one of the Oryx gets too close, it is broken apart. One of the Oryx draws its own sword and runs at Danny. Already grappling with 2 other undead, Danny turns to block the sword strikes with the back of the other Oryx. As its comrades are hacked to pieces, the creature breaks through and thrusts its blade towards Danny's core. Danny hops backward, up onto a section of the broken wall. The teen swings down at the Oryx, deflecting its clumsy slashes. Danny kicks out, striking the skeleton's head and disconnecting it from its body. 2 more Oryx rush Danny, one of them hopping onto the wall and running towards her from the side. Danny pivots, cutting the creature down. The Oryx tumbles off the wall, losing several pieces of its body upon impact with the cold, hard ground. The other Oryx swings at Danny's legs from below. Danny jumps over the blade several times before moving further along the wall and hurling a fire spell orb at the undead. Weak to fire, the skeleton bursts into flames and vanishes completely. I wish I had more of those, Danny thinks. Or, the actual ability to cast fire magic myself. The defeated Oryx begin to reform, pulling their bodies back together. Only the one burned completely is now gone for good. The nature of the Yetzira is an inability for the dead to remain dead there. The laws of this astral world are different from the mortal plane. Anything that dies will resurrect. Any spirit that enters the waste from the other worlds will either consume or be consumed. I have to get that enchanted sword back. This whole thing is useless, Danny thinks, looking down at the sword taken from one of the Oryx. The creatures resume their attack, and Danny defends against their swords before driving her own through the face of an Oryx and flipping over its body. As soon as she lands, Danny slides beneath another Oryx sword slash and breaks into a run for the enchanted sword lying on the ground ahead of where she dropped it. The teen scoops up the sword as she runs and pivots in a crouch, using the sword as a fulcrum, and grabs 2 spell orbs off the ground. She lobs at the pursuers. One of the orbs is a combustion orb, completely obliterating the Oryx it hits. The second orb catches another of the undead in the face and explodes in a brilliant fireball. Danny rises up with her sword, bringing up across the center of an attacking Oryx. The magical blade exorcises the undead, draining its form of its foe life. Panting with exhaustion, Danny holds her sword outwards. The teen's eyes survey the wasteland for any more threats. When no more Oryx attack, Danny returns to the section of the broken wall and finishes off the Oryx that have yet to reform. I can't believe how strong this world's power is over death. Just by dying here, you're cursed to rise again as a monster, Danny thinks. She takes inventory of her remaining spell orbs and becomes frustrated. I only have 6 combat spells remaining. Maybe I should just call this a bust and go back. If I really struggled this much against one of the lowest forms of the undead, how can I hope to defeat something far more powerful? The Revenants continue to watch Danny from a safe distance, but they scatter in fear as they sense a far more dangerous predator approaching. Because of the nature of the Revenants, the weak will be consumed by the strong in an absence of life energy. Revenants provide poor nourishment for each other, and they're always left hungry and searching for more prey. Existence in the wastes is a continuous cycle of hunting and being hunted. There is always a stronger predator waiting just beyond one's notice, so all of the creatures of the wastes must be on constant alert. Danny's eyes snap to attention, scanning the edge of her light's reach for movement. I know I just heard something. I felt like I've been watched for a while now. She grips her sword tightly. I wonder what's out there, keeping an eye on me. Doyle. Lieutenant Nando walks past the gates leading outside the city, while performing a routine security check. The knight on duty becomes alarmed at the sight of Vatus. Lieutenant Nando? The knight shouts. How did you get back inside? I did not open the gate to allow you through. Vatus frowns in confusion. What are you talking about? I've not been outside at all today. Sir? The knight begins, also confused. I let you through the gate just a few hours ago. You said that you were hunting a Draugr. A Draugr? This is the first I'm hearing about that. Whoever you allowed outside, it was not me. Oh no, the knight whispers, knowing he's made a terrible mistake. Sir, I am sorry, but I must insist that you allow me to scan you for any illusion magic. Vatus becomes agitated. Did you scan the imposter as well? The knight nods. Of course, sir. It's standard procedure. Vatas pushes past him towards the gate. Then your spell was obviously ineffective. Allow me through. But, sir, do you want to be the one who prevents me from maintaining the security of the city? You have already allowed an unauthorized mage outside of Endelgian. I have to get out there and find out who it was and why they're impersonating me. The knight allows Vatas through, and the lieutenant hurries to catch up with his imposter. Alameda, Alabama, December 14th, 1998. Still traveling with the PIA agents, Virtual and his allies are next sent to the site of another dimensional disturbance. Everyone finds it strange that two of the anomalies have appeared in the same area, so closely spaced apart. This is bullshit, Peril growls. This is like the fourth time you've promised us that we were going to stage an attack on the Conco facility, and instead we're heading in the opposite direction once more. Sorry, kid, but Conco can wait a little longer, Agent Callahan says. These dimensional tears are a more immediate threat to everyone. If we don't make sure all of those fissures are sealed up, countless creatures from the astral wastes will come pouring in to devour every man, woman, and child on the planet. Let them be eaten, Peril growls. I don't care about any of that. If someone is weak enough to be consumed, they deserve it. Agent Lachey's hand trembles as it grips his holstered gun. Agent Hill puts her hand over his and shakes her head slowly. It isn't worth it, man. That little prick is a liability, Agent Lachey growls. His callousness is going to get us killed. The suits want him on board, so we just got to make sure to keep an eye on him. We won't let things go south, I promise. Agent Lachey nods, removing his hand. Fine. The first time the kid does something that directly endangers any of us or a civilian, I'm dropping him. Storm walks past the agent, bumping him in the shoulder hard. You kill Peril, and you follow him afterward. The GX-enhanced operatives enter the target building and make quick work of the three revenants found within. The four warriors exit the building, wiping undead monster flesh and gore off their clothing. All taken care of, Storm says, pulling a clawed finger off his shoulder and tossing it aside. I could have killed all of them myself, Peril growls, getting in Virtual's face. Why do you insist in stealing my prey? Your prey? Flux repeats, confused. You aren't some predatory animal, you're a human child. These monsters aren't our prey. They're targets to eliminate before they kill people. I don't care about those people. I kill the revenants because they are in my way. The sooner I kill all of them, the sooner we can bring down Conco once and for all. What the hell is wrong with this kid? Flux mutters. These creatures were much smaller and less powerful than the ones we faced previously, Virtual reports to Callahan. They seemed almost afraid of us, like they knew why we were there. I think there's some form of communication between the creatures. Agent Callahan begins to wonder if the more ancient creatures have caught on to the human strategies and are sending younger revenants through the tears first to test the response. Second wound secured, Agent Callahan reports. Magical sealing team requested. Mages will be dispatched as soon as they are available, Director Rice replies. Leave a few agents to sit on the site until the mages arrive. Copy. Moving on to the next job. Proceed with your original mission, Rice says. I will advise if any more dimensional wounds open up in your vicinity. Are we back on schedule? Virtual asks. Agent Callahan nods. Our next target is the Conco facility. Do whatever you need to do to get ready. This isn't going to be like the dimensional wound tasks. We're all mobilizing for this. Every able-bodied agent will be running this op. You're only going to get in my way, Peril growls. Enough, Callahan shouts. We need to cooperate on this. If you try to do it alone, you're only going to get killed. I know you're strong, but Conco's best are going to be waiting for us. This is going to be like the hospital times 10. Peril laughs. I look forward to the challenge. Undisclosed location. Silver Fox, Western Operations Command Center. Gator paces back and forth in the ready room, trying to brainstorm ways that he can get Cascavel back from the technicians without making a fuss. Analysis of the divine weapon is important, but Gator feels in his heart that the blade belongs in his hands. After defeating the Grigori Yazda Benahil, ownership of the sword passed on to him. This much was made clear by the Watcher named Hoyles during their conversation in Brighton. He isn't sure why, but Gator knows that he and Cascavel have something important to accomplish. "What's bothering you, boss?" Pierce asks. "We need to be out there in the field, not waiting around here with our thumbs up our asses," Gator says. "What would you have us out there doing?" Royce asks. "You told us to stay out of the way of Inyana's tournament." "There are other enemies out there," Gator says. "Do you think that there was only one rogue angel working with the devils? We took out Benahil, but I'd put money on there being another similar operations out there with even more rogues." "Where would we even begin tracking them down?" Royce asks. "Go out there. Do a little legwork. With our boots in the field, I'm sure we could shake a few trees and see what falls out," Gator replies. Outside, 2 armed Silver Fox agents patrol the helipad. Suddenly, both men collapse with burst aortas. The devil Kame steps forward, hand still outstretched. With biokinesis, Kame is able to kill the agents without touching them. "Kill all of them," Kame orders. "Leave no one alive." Nearly a dozen lower-ranked devils in service to Kame run forward to infiltrate the entrance into the Silver Fox compound. Gator and his team look up, hearing gunshots and lots of commotion. "Arm up, boys, we got trouble." "Who the hell is ballsy enough to attack us?" Welker asks. "Who even knows we're here?" Royce asks. "This place isn't exactly in the yellow pages." The devils move through the facility, killing anyone in sight. Silver Fox agents fire at them, but the devils are able to fend off their attacks with their superior psychic abilities. The emergency defensive systems activate, detecting the presence of hostile non-human entities. Dozens of gun turrets fix on the intruders, but before they can open fire, the devils take out the facility's power with their psychic ability of electrokinesis. The emergency generators kick on, and the building moves into automatic lockdown protocols. As the lights and computers shut off and the emergency dimmers switch on, the Silver Fox personnel begin to scramble to find out what is happening. "Is this a drill?" Leinster shakes his head, looking around nervously. "I had no security drills planned for today. This is the real thing." With that, all of the operatives within earshot load their weapons and prepare for battle. "We need to get you to safety, sir," an agent named Manoj Bentley says, trying to usher Leinster Fox down the hallway. "I am not abandoning this base," Leinster says, grabbing a rifle from a fallen agent. "Do we know who is behind this?" Agent Bentley shakes his head. "No, sir, but based on the abilities displayed, I'd say they're devils." 2 Silver Fox agents run at the devils, but Kame snaps their necks with his biokinesis psychic power. Several of his soldiers are hit by gunfire, but the devils remain on their feet. Even if the bodies of their human hosts are damaged, they can continue to pilot them for some time after death. "Bullets aren't doing shit!" An agent shouts, dropping his mag and slapping a fresh one into place. "Shouldn't they be feeling our shots?" "Not if they're devils," Agent Bentley says. "Their hosts are able to absorb a lot of punishment before they need to discard them for new ones." Leinster runs from cover, hurrying to the R&D team. "Mulder, we need everything your team has on hand to combat devils." "Devils?" Mulder whispers. "How did they find us?" "That isn't important right now. Our forces aren't equipped to deal with devils. We need an equalizer." Gator and his team burst out of the ready room, guns blazing. The devils are able to deflect the bullets with telekinesis, but one of them looks down to see a thermal grenade roll between his feet. The grenade explodes, mutilating several of the devils. Using the explosion as a distraction, Gator's team rushes to engage the devils. Pierce wrestles with a large possessed man for control of the agent's knife. Pierce shouts at him in pain as the devil bends his wrist backward and causes him to drop the weapon. Pierce kicks the devil in the shin several times and repeatedly strikes his ears with hammer fists to no avail. The devil grabs Pierce by the throat with his other hand and lifts the former soldier off the ground. "You are just a human," the devil growls. "You cannot stand up to a being such as me. I was once a divine warrior, feared and respected. Your primitive ancestors offered us praise and adoration, even as we took their wives and daughters as playthings." He begins to laugh. "You are all so weak. I cannot believe how many centuries have passed, yet you still refuse to acknowledge your utter uselessness. Your kind should have been exterminated like the pests you are a long time ago." Pierce smiles, his teeth stained red with blood. "We know we're weak. That's why we're good at making strong things that go boom." The devil realizes with horror that the agent has attached a grenade to his belt. Dropping Pierce, the devil flounders to retrieve the explosive, but it's too late. The grenade detonates, reducing the devil to wet, meaty chunks. Welker attempts to slash a devil across the chest with his combat knife, but the former Yazda blocks his arm at the wrist and strikes him with an open palm to the face. As the soldier is staggered back, the devil uses psychokinesis to send him flying across the room and through a glass divider wall. Welker moans, trying to crawl to his feet as the devil slowly stalks him. Sadistic and enjoying the suffering of their victims, the devils like to play with their opponents before killing them. "How in the hell did one of you pathetic apes manage to kill a Grigori?" the devil known as Nearest asks. He stands over Welker with disgust. "You seem too weak to be able to kill even a Yazdan scribe, let alone a former seraphim." "Hey, Turkey!" Mean shouts. Nereus turns around just as the agent tosses a diamond dust-filled grenade at him. Using psychokinesis, the devil stops the explosive in the air. Suddenly, Welker slashes through Nereus' Achilles tendon with a shard of glass. His concentration broke and the devil loses control of the grenade and explodes against his chest. Nereus staggers back in pain, diamond shards embedded in his flesh all over. Means walks over, leveling his rifle to the devil's face. Without another word, the agent obliterates Nereus' skull from point-blank range. The devil collapses, his human host beyond saving. "Thanks for the assist," Welker says as Means helps him to his feet. "There's still plenty of those bastards around. We need to thin their numbers. Fighting one of them was bad enough before. Even with experience, there's still a lot to handle." "I don't think these devils are as powerful as that rogue Benahil was. These guys seem like low-class peons compared to him." "That might be, but even a weaker devil or Yazda is still leagues above us. We can't take this threat lightly." "Oh, trust me," Welker says, pulling a shard of glass from his thigh. "I'm not taking any of this lightly." The remaining devils continue their assault on Silver Fox. Using biokinesis, several of them are able to dispatch agents as they attempt to stop them with an armed response. Bursting blood vessels and breaking necks with their minds, the devils are able to kill without ever having to lay a hand on their enemies. The anti-Yazatan weaponry that is available is mostly put to good use. But with the devils targeting workstations with their attacks, access to this weaponry is limited. The handful of diamond dust grenades that are utilized cause severe pain and discomfort to the devils and break their grouping. Unable to roll through the facility as a cohesive unit as they intended, the devils are forced to scatter and pick off individual targets. Because of this, the humans are actually able to fight back and gain a few victories over individual devils. "Stay together and fight them as a team," Gator shouts, leading his unit from the front. He shoots several devils and drops into a crouch, allowing Royce to knock them back with his shotgun. "They're getting up from lethal wounds," Kinte says, shooting another devil in the chest. "They're invulnerable." "They aren't invulnerable," Royce says, pivoting to strike a devil across the face with the butt of his gun as he gets too close. "They bleed and die just like us. It just takes a little more effort." Gator grabs a devil by the shirt sleeve and hooks under his arm with his other hand, hip-tossing him to the ground before dropping his knee down across his throat. "Royce is right. We can win this fight if we keep in control of our emotions and rely on our brains and our training." One of the devils manages to separate Gator's team with the rapid firing of energy blasts. Gator rolls an evasion and comes up into a crouch, hurling his knife into the devil's forehead. Annoyed by their setbacks, Kame bursts a Silver Fox agent into flames with pyrokinesis, and kills another by rupturing his heart with biokinesis. "Do not take any prisoners or show any mercy," Kame growls. "These humans have already demonstrated that their ability to craft weaponry specifically designated against our kind. We cannot allow them to come up with something even more effective that can actually kill us." Leinster turns towards the R&D technicians, still trying to lay low and avoid stray gunfire and psychic attacks. "Divert emergency power to the loudspeakers. Begin reading from the exorcism packet." "Where is that?" Mulder asks. "Red folder with all the emergency procedures. It's labeled so you can't miss it." Mulder and two technicians hurriedly run towards the intercoms while crouching beneath gunfire. Kicking on the PA, Mulder clears his throat and begins to nervously read from the packet. "Esse crucem domini fugite partes adversae. Vicit Leo de tribu Juda, radix David. Fiat misericordia tua domine super nos. Quemadomium speravimus inte. Domine, exaudie orationum mieme, et clamor meus ad te veniat. Si fuerit clericus, Dominus, vobiscum, et cum spiritu tu." Kame holds his ears in discomfort. "Kill them! Don't allow them to continue reading from that exorcism." The devils push further into the facility, struggling to fight against the pain induced by the booming exorcismal spell broadcast over the loudspeakers. Gator moves from behind cover and wraps one hand around the mouth of a devil and drags his knife across the possessed man's throat. Blood sprays outwards violently, but the devil continues to resist, finally breaking free from Gator's grip. Gator quickly draws his sidearm and punches several shots into the devil's chest, staggering him backwards. Rice tackles the devil from the side and saws his own knife back and forth across the wound already opened up by Gator. The devil manages to kick Royce off him and stand back up. His head flops to the side, held on only by a few muscle fibers and his vertebrae. "You can't kill me," the devil hisses. His voice is unnatural, and air whistles from his exposed throat. Gator readjusts his aim, firing several more shots, this time targeting the neck area. Gator is able to finally sever the devil's head completely. Several more devils rush them, but the Silver Fox agents fire off a few rounds as they retreat for better cover. "Exorcismos te, omnus, immude spiritus, omnis satanic potestas, omnis infernalis adversari, omnis legio, omnis congregatio et secta diabolica, in nomine et virtute Domine nostri, Jesus Christi." Mulder continues chanting over the loudspeakers, greatly weakening Kame and his forces. Kame can feel his spirit starting to detach from his vessel, like a plant that is being pulled upon forcefully, and the roots are beginning to shake loose from the ground. Several of the weakest and more severely injured of his team collapse to the ground motionless, as their souls are ripped free by the divine incantation and cast back to Gehenna. "Enough!" came screams releasing pulses of energy at several computer consoles and workstations. "Cease that spell immediately!" Due to the exorcism spell being cast, the devils are considerably weakened and kept disoriented and not at their full potential. Only Kame is able to function at a high level due to his status as a higher-ranked devil and a seated officer of the Knights of the Fly. An elite collection of Gehenna's strongest warriors, the Knights are a perverse answer to the Yazata's Seraphim choirs. They may not be ranked the same as the Seraphim, but the Knights of the Fly are no less capable fighters and equally dangerous. As a third seat of the Knights of the Fly, Kame was in charge of nearly 1,000 lesser devils during his time in Gehenna. Now, as one of the influencers chosen to sow discord among the humans, Kame still commands respect and loyalty from those who once served beneath him. Because of this, he was able to organize a powerful collection of lesser devils for this mission very quickly. Watching as more of his team falls, Kame cannot help but be astounded by how these humans have been able to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. By all accounts, none of the humans should have survived this long, and all of his own soldiers should still be alive. He could have accepted the human that killed Benahil living a little longer than the others. But this many of them? These humans are different. Not only are they skilled fighters and knowledgeable in matters beyond the mortal realm, they are resourceful and tenacious. He will have a difficult time justifying his losses to the others. Without seeing the humans in person, none of the other high-ranking devils will believe him when he tries to explain himself. The only way to salvage this mission will be to make sure that all of the humans are dead, and Benahil's sword is retrieved. Reporting the deaths of his lesser soldiers will not be necessary so long as he is successful. While his team holds their enemies back, Gator himself runs over to the R&D team. "I need my sword," Gator says. Mulder looks to Leinster, who nods. The science tech quickly moves to his computer terminal, releasing Cascavel from the device studying it. With sword in hand, Gator rejoins the battle. Diamond dust-filled grenades are lobbed from cover by Silver Fox agents, as the R&D team distributes more effective weaponry. 2 more devils are felled, and Gator runs into the heart of their forces, cutting through the chests of 2 more. "How dare you apes fight back against us?" the devil shouts as Gator cuts down one of his allies beside him. Gator attempts to stab the devil, but he is knocked back with psychokinesis. Gator hits a workstation and loses hold of his sword. The soldier drops to his hands and knees, wincing in pain. "You are all so fragile. Just a little bit of force exerted on you and your bodies break." Gator straightens up, bringing up his fists into a fighting stance. "You're using those same bodies too." The devil laughs. "Yes, but we do not have to stop because of pain or injury. We push these bodies as far as they go until they become useless. You are nothing more than tools for us." Gator runs at the devil and slides on his knees just as the creature throws his hands out to use his psychic powers. The soldier comes up to his feet just as he reaches the devil, bringing the top of his skull up into the creature's chin. As the devil reels back, Gator thrusts his fists into its throat. The devil chokes for a breath, clawing at his throat. Gator casually draws his sidearm and fires several times to put the creature down for good. Mulder continues his exorcism spell, managing to drop several more of Kame's forces. Only a handful of the devils now remain. "Eradicare et effugiare a die ecclesia ab animibus ad imagium die conditus ac praetisio divini agni sanguine redemptis non ultra audius serpens calidissime deceferi humanium genus die ecclesiam persequi ac die ecclesios exutere et prebiar sicut tritunium impara divi Deus altissimus, qui in magna tua superbia te simile haberi adhuc praesumis, que omnes homines vult salvo fieri et ad agniomnium veritas venire." You hide behind your weapons and spells, Kame screams in anger. You know that we are superior. That is why you refuse to face us in combat. You humans are weak and cowardly. We don't need special weapons to kill you, Kente shouts, hurling a knife from behind cover. Kame stops the blade in the air with telekinesis and fires a burst of energy into the desk Kente is hiding behind. As Kente dives for new cover, the devil freezes his body with biokinesis-induced paralysis. Your cowardly tactics will not be enough to save you from the fate I have in store, Kame growls. Every last one of you will die. I will not be leaving any survivors. You don't get to decide that, Kente shouts. You can try and take us all out, but you're going to fail. Kame tilts his head in surprise. The devil's arrogance is common for their species. Am I? And how am I going to fail? Are you going to stop me? Are you the human who killed Benahil? No, a voice says from behind. Kame turns to face Gator for the first time. I am. The devil attempts to freeze Gator with biokinesis, but the experienced soldier is already moving and evades the psychic assault. Running in an erratic zigzag, Gator reaches Kame and delivers a combo of body shots before attempting a hard left hook. Kame freezes Gator's fist in the air, but the soldier thrusts his other hand into the devil's exposed ribs. Kame staggers back several steps, blood running from the corners of his mouth. Gator does not let up, rushing him with fast punches and kicks. While the devil is faster, he cannot use his psychic powers to block and attack simultaneously. Kame suffers another hard blow that bloodies his nose, and he is staggered back again. I can understand why you were able to face Benahil and not be completely dominated. The devil exerts his aura, tossing Gator back several feet. The soldier does not fall, instead skidding back on his heels as he tries to resist the force. But I am not Benahil. We are not even in the same category. Benahil was a nobody, a low-life deserter. He held no rank or title within the Seraphim. I, on the other hand, was a squad captain within the 10th Choir. After becoming Devilnay, I have only grown more powerful. Under my leadership, the Knights of the Fly rivaled even-seated Seraphim officers in strength. Good for you, Gator growls, but you bleed all the same. Kame laughs, wiping the blood from his nose and mouth. A simple inconvenience of requiring human vessels to exist within in this world. If you were to face my true self, you could do nothing to harm me. If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, it'd be Christmas every day, Gator says, not taking his eyes off his opponent. What? Kame does not understand Gator's reference. It's a saying about excuses, Gator replies. You wouldn't understand. Yes, because your human philosophy is so complex, Kame mocks. My tiny divine brain cannot comprehend your wisdom. Can it comprehend a distraction? Gator asks. Kame's eyes widen as he expands his awareness to find that Kente has rolled a diamond dust grenade between his legs. The explosive detonates just as Kame attempts to contain it with his psychic powers. The concussion force is enough to knock the devil backwards and through a table. Kame groans in pain trying to stand up, but Gator and Kente rush in to finish the devil off. But they are intercepted by two of Kame's subordinates. Royce attacks from the side with a shotgun filled with diamond dust buckshot. Finish off their leader, he says, firing again and pushing the devils back. We can hold the others off. Kente joins Royce's side, drawing his sidearm and firing into the chests of the devils. Hurry up! Only you can do this, boss! Gator is reminded of his fallen comrade, Ruben Vieira, and he nods, balling his fists tightly. Kame finally manages to collect himself, standing back up. Damned primates, he growls, covered in diamond shrapnel and bleeding cuts. You will pay for that. Royce manages to kick the kneecap of one of the devils and lower him to his other one. With one fluid motion, Royce drives the blade of his knife through the right eye of the devil. Pulling his weapon free, he pivots and blasts through the face of the other devil with his shotgun. As the first devil staggers back and tries to get away, Kinte wraps him up in a headlock from behind and twists, breaking his neck. Leinster tosses Gator Cascavel, and the soldier pivots, cutting down through Kame's arm. The devil is caught by surprise and unable to defend. As Gator pivots to bring his sword around to cleave Kame's head, the devil throws his remaining hand out to freeze him in place. "A Yazatan blade?" Kame observes. "You have no right to wield that weapon." "Is that why you're here?" Gator growls, unable to move. "Because we killed your friend?" "Friend?" Kame laughs. "No Yazata are friends of mine. Our interests were merely aligned." The devil begins to apply pressure to Gator's internal organs, causing him to drool blood. A gunshot rings out, punching the devil in the shoulder. As Kame stumbles back, Gator is released from the devil's hold and immediately drives forward with his sword. Kame looks down, Cascavel piercing his chest. "All of us together. My whole team killed by humans." "You attacked the wrong base, devil," Royce says, approaching with his shotgun still held out at the ready. "It is only a matter of time," Kame laughs, his mouth filling with blood. "You've got their attention now. We're nothing compared to what will come for you next." Gator lifts his sword, causing great pain to the devil. "Who's in charge?" "I'll never tell you," Kame coughs. "But you'll find out soon enough." Tired of talking, Gator slashes his sword through the side of the devil. "I'm holding on to this," Gator tells Mulder, tucking Cascavel into his belt. Kame stands staring at the humans with wide eyes, his body nearly cleaved in two. Kame's remaining arm is severed at the elbow. After a few seconds, the devil collapses to the floor and expires. Dozens of agents are dead. All of the devils that Kame brought with him are no more. The facility is in ruin. "This base has never been attacked before," Leinster whispers in shock. "We need to strengthen our defenses," Gator says. "If more of them come, we need to be ready." "Sir, if they know about this base, then they know who we are," Royce says. "That means they know who our families are." Gator becomes pale with horror. "I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm going home. Any of those devils hurt my family, they're going to regret ever crawling out of hell."